Welcome to Legs and Sense, where we're putting feet to faith and gaining wisdom for life. We're so glad you're here. Abbey and I invite you to walk with us through life's real and refining moments. This is a space for women to grow in godly wisdom, find purpose, and hold on to hope, even when the path feels uncertain. So take a breath, get comfortable, and let's begin the walk.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of Legs and Sense. My name is Angie. I am here alongside of my sister Abbey in the middle of the summer. It's a hot one, but fortunately we've had enough rain so that we are not experiencing a drought this summer, which is so nice when it comes to watering flowers and watering the yard and all of those things, staying cool. And of course, then we have the inevitable thunderstorms. And so Abbey, I know you have some thunderstorm stories. I think we all have thunderstorm stories.
I do. It's just kind of funny because I feel like thunderstorms are unpredictable. Like that's what makes it a thunderstorm story. Even if the weather channel is saying, oh, it's going to come at such and such a time and it's going to, it could just pop up early or it could totally divert and totally miss you. Like there's just an unpredictability because the weather's changing and it's just hot. And then I don't even know how it all works. Cold air comes through something. I don't know. Yeah. But because they're so unpredictable, I help plan some weddings at times. And I was actually helping to plan a wedding. And, we're checking the radar because it was going to be an outside ceremony and it was going to be beautiful, but it was in the middle of summer and it was hot. And you just never know in the middle of summer. It's not like, oh, it's September, so you can pretty much plan a couple days in advance. Like it can just pop up in the summer. And so all morning it was kind of popping up here and there, these rainstorms and things. And it was like, okay, we're checking the radar. I think we're clear. We're going to have this wedding outside. We're going to go for it. And so we got everyone going. We set it all up. Bride, the whole bridal party makes it down the aisle. They're starting their ceremony. And probably about 10 minutes into the ceremony, and it was probably going to be like a 30-minute ceremony. And about 10 minutes in, all of a sudden, I hear something. And I look, and a friend and I just kind of look over, and we just see this wall of rain coming across the parking lot. All the guests are there. They're all looking, and it was like you just saw it coming, and the dark clouds, but everyone is focused on the wedding. They're great guests. Like they are just, hey, we're watching the bride and groom. This is beautiful. And I was like, oh no. So I run inside and I grab all these umbrellas. I come back out and I just start walking down the aisle as the rain, it's just coming closer and closer. And then all of a sudden, I was like, I don't want to interrupt what they're doing, but they need to know they are about to get drenched. So then everyone just kind of turns and looks as they hear the rushing rain coming down, and the entire ceremony audience, or I guess guests, just stand up and make a run for it to the inside. I mean, because it wasn't a drizzle, it wasn't even over. I mean, it was a downpour. And so I have these umbrellas and I'm just trying to get them to the bridesmaids. I'm trying to get them to the bride. So I'm holding an umbrella, trying to get the bride back down the aisle so we can get inside so she's not completely drenched. And it was just kind of hilarious because I'm literally bringing her down the aisle and the guests are just dashing, cutting her off, not realizing, they did not realize they were cutting off the bride, but they are it was survival of the fittest. Everyone's trying to get inside to not be drenched, to not be soaked for the rest of the night, running in. And I'm like, excuse me, I have the bride. Excuse me. And we're trying to get her inside. And, I will say it couldn't have happened to better people, because they just had that great attitude of oh my goodness, this is such an experience. This is such a story. And even the guests, they weren't upset about it. Everyone was kind of laughing about it. They finished the ceremony inside with everyone standing up for the most part because there weren't chairs necessarily set up, and because it was just all a big surprise in a lot of ways. But they, for things being as unpredictable as they can be, I will say the bride and the groom, the family, the guests, they handled it really well because you just never know. Sometimes people could be really upset.
Just a positive attitude. You just make the most of it. And especially with these summertime things, because I know even a few weeks ago when we were planning my daughter's graduation party, and it's they're predicting storms and do you cancel? What do you do? And you just can't predict the future. You just have to have the attitude like, hey, we're going to make the most of it and we're going to make some memories. I know a friend of mine had some plans to go to Hershey Park, and he was like, hey, like, they're calling for storms. Like, what would you do? And I was like, my life experience is that it's such a pain to reschedule. If you already have it on the calendar, like, yeah, rain and storms, like, it might dampen some of your expectations, but if one comes along, it's really going to amplify your stories afterward. And so,
Exactly.
just like in that wedding, I know we went to a concert one time over at the Buck, and like you're just watching the radar as you're standing in line and waiting for like ticket entry, and you're like, it's getting closer, it's getting closer. Like, when do you give up your spot in line to make a dash for the car? And when, like, how long are you going to wait? And like, you see people, like, everybody is contemplating that decision. And we ended up getting absolutely drenched. Like, it had never rained so hard. And we were just like running through the middle of the field to our car. Like, they weren't even letting anybody in the arena at that time. And we're still telling that story. Like, I can't even tell you like much about the concert, but that was really fun to be like running with our friends through the field, pouring down rain, just like stopping wet. And so,
Well, do you remember, speaking of running through things, drenching wet and like all of that, do you remember when we were kids, we had like on at the front of our house, our yard was just this giant hill. And whenever it would thunderstorm, we thought it was hilarious and so much fun where we would all stand, like there's four of us kids, we would all stand on the front porch, and then we would see a strike of lightning, and we would try to run to the bottom of the hill and back up onto the porch before the lightning striked again. Oh, but we were drenched, soaking wet, and didn't realize that we could potentially have gotten killed. But yeah, we would just try to dodge the lightning like as it was coming.
well, because it was like those hot days, it felt so cool and refreshing. Like, finally,
Yes.
like, because we didn't grow up with air conditioning, which I know sounds crazy, but we didn't.
Yeah.
And so it was like when it rained, it was like, oh, it was so refreshing. And the lightning wasn't going to keep us out of the rain.
Actually, not too long ago, we don't have air conditioning. I know we sound so old, but in our downstairs, like we just have it in our bedrooms, but our downstairs we don't. And my husband and I are laughing so hard because it like kind of had a rainstorm and it just cooled everything off. And like our family's just outside in the rain having fun. And we were like, all our neighbors probably think we're nuts. And then they're probably like, oh, they don't have air conditioning. Like it makes sense now. Because it does. It just cools you off and refreshes you. But I
Yeah.
don't know if I would recommend trying to dodge lightning strikes.
So, would you recommend climbing mountains in thunderstorms? Because I know you've
No.
done that too.
Yes. That it's fun. I've climbed a few mountains, and there's definitely some ones where like if you go out west and you do some of those hikes and climbs on some of those bigger mountains that are going to be like 12,000, 14,000 feet, they kind of say, hey, if you haven't made it to the top by like 1 p.m. or 2 p.m., wherever you are, you turn around and go back down because a storm is coming. Like that's just how it is out there. And so I remember, like that, and never had any issues there. But my husband and I, for our anniversary, decided to hike Mount Washington up in New Hampshire. And did you know that's the windiest place on earth? Like,
Well, after you came back, I didn't know that.
yes, like people have blown off that mountain. It is, and I think it's only like 5,000 some feet. Like, it's not like some like 20,000 foot mountain, but the way it's set up and geography and all of that kind of stuff, it is like very volatile weather. And so we were like, well, we'll go in August, it'll be fine and stuff. And we were hiking up, and actually it was a really nice hike because it was kind of cloudy. So it wasn't overly hot, and we were just kind of making our way up there. And we get to like, I don't know, half mile, quarter mile from the top, and like this cloud, like you're literally in a cloud. And I remember being so thankful that I downloaded the All Trails app. Like I downloaded the map because I was like, we don't know where we're going. Like the cloud was so thick that it was just like you literally could not see any trail markings or anything like that. And so we're following the map on the phone, and then all of a sudden we start to hear thunder. And it was the weirdest feeling to be in the thunder cloud that is producing the thunder. Like we look at each other and we're like, okay, we're like a quarter mile, half mile from the top. we don't want to be stupid. Do we just turn around and go down? You know, like people die on this mountain almost every year. We don't want to be the like those people and like all of this. Like they actually
Well,
sell insurance. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just remember Brad, your husband, after you guys came back, and he's telling us this story, and he's telling us how terrifying it is to be on this mountain in the middle of a thunderstorm cloud. And his dilemma at the time was, do I stay with my wife and protect her, or do we separate so that only one of us dies and the other one can still come back to the children? And I'm like, what an awful decision that you have to make.
Yeah, he was making that dilemma. I was just assuming we were going to stay together. I had no idea he had thoughts to leave me. He must have seen I was slowing down at that point, and he wasn't sure if I was going to make it because we're at the top of the mountain, and I did not train as well as he did. So he knew he could make it. He just wasn't sure if I could make it. So, but it was just odd. And so we were like, okay, we're just going to keep going. We're going to pick up the pace. I mean, as again, I didn't train as well as I should have. So for me, picking up the pace was still a slow pace for him, definitely. But we made it. We made it to the top, and we were like, okay, like that was kind of scary. And even I mean, there was lightning. There was like it was just the strangest and eeriest, one of the eeriest positions I've been in. Like in that to be like, I don't know what is just extremely foolish and what the best decision here actually is. And so yeah, it was a pretty crazy experience. I don't know. There's those thunderstorms and then the humidity that they bring, all of that.
Yes, the humidity is relentless, and I'm actually surprised I'm not even like wearing a hat right now because hats are my go-to. But I mean, I'll just be honest, like even beyond hats, like I have some fake hair pieces because it's kind of weird, but I was like, oh, it kind of matches my hair. And now my hair's like thinning a little bit. And I'm like, oh, I just like want it to be poofy. I don't want to tease it. I don't want to do it. And I'm like, I'll just pull it back, put a hat on, throw on my hairpiece. And it's all good to go. I know it's so crazy. I don't even know why I bring it up, but it does make me laugh. Like, because when I was holding your youngest like 2 years ago, and we were just like playing around, and he thought it would be funny to just like grab my hair and like yank it as a joke, and it like came out in his hand. And he was mortified. He just started screaming. But I do feel like it is more common now, like for people to like have hair pieces, and
Yeah.
it's not as like I don't even know what it was before. Maybe I was just younger, so I had a different perspective. And now that I'm getting older, I'm like, like
Yeah.
it's easy. It looks nice, and
Just a little shocking for toddlers.
it is a little shocking for toddlers. And but yeah, I'm not opposed to like exploring more with hair pieces. Let's just say that. I don't know what the future holds, but we shall see. We shall see.
Okay. I think I do remember like one time, I think maybe it was prom or something, being like, oh, like I went to a stylist. I was like, it'd be really neat to have my hair look like this. And she's just like, that's fine, but that's a hairpiece. And I was like, oh. I think that was the first time it really struck me of like, oh, this is like a normal, people do this to make their hair look nice. It's not their natural hair that always looks nice, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I think that was the first time I realized, oh, a lot of what you see on TV or on now like Instagram and I'm like, oh, there are a lot of like hair piece extension, different things going on there. And yeah, it definitely does seem to become more of a normal thing. And
Yeah. I mean, I think it's fun. I think it just like adds another level of creativity, and because like we have nieces, and one is like African American, like her extensions, like I just love like the different things that she gets put in her hair, and I just think it's really fun.
yeah.
So,
Well, and they also have taught me more about like hair bonnets and like the silk hair bonnet. And so, it's something that I've seen more and more of. And so I actually just ordered my first silk hair bonnet. I was suckered in for like an Amazon Prime thing. I don't even like have Amazon Prime, but I signed up for the 30-day free thing. And then it happened to be Prime Week. And I'm like, oh, this is why I don't have Amazon Prime. This is too easy. This is too. I did. And so I was like, well, I even Googled, because I was like, okay, like, should white girls get silk hair bonnets? Like, I Googled it because I didn't know. Like, I was just kind of like, is this beneficial? Is this not? And, it was like, oh, everyone can benefit. So I did. I got my first soap hair bonnet. And, I will say, verdict's still out. I don't know how I feel about it because I've done like the t-shirt ones to just kind of keep my hair a little more contained and stuff, but then it would always fall out. So this is like my first official one, but I don't know. And my summer humidity hair isn't helping the situation either. So I don't know. I'm still kind of like, I'll have to let you know. Verdict's still out on whether it's something I'm like, oh yeah, everybody should have a hair bonnet, or if it's just kind of one of those things that I'm not sure. And it is. There's an adjustment sleeping, but it's not too bad. It's not bad at all.
Is it an adjustment for your husband when he looks over?
I've done like the sock wrap things in my hair. I feel like anymore, he's just like, it's just another thing. Like she's just trying something, sure. But no, he's fine. He's used to it.
Well, I'm waiting for you to, let me know the decision because it will influence if I think it's worth it or not. But I am curious. I'm very curious. But I know, Abby, we've been talking a lot about summer. We've been, just having fun telling stories. But if we're honest and just talking about what's been happening these last couple of weeks, your family has just experienced a lot. And so I just want to acknowledge what you've been walking through and just honor you and Brad for how you've just remained so incredibly faithful and just relying on God through this season as Brad's dad, your father-in-law, has been ill and then went to be with Jesus just a few weeks ago. And we were able to celebrate his life together. And what's special is before he was even your father-in-law, he was my mission trip leader. And so he definitely has a special place in my heart and just memories and just that first mission trip is so life-changing. It just gives you perspective that you've never had before. And so he took a group of high school students and we went on an international missions trip to Belize, and we had a vacation Bible school and just interacted with the community and shared the gospel. And it was just a point that really made me come to like, it was a pivotal moment in my faith journey where it was like, okay, am I just going to keep walking through the motions, or am I really going to own this thing? Like this message that I'm sharing with these people in this community, like, is this just what I've been taught and I've learned how to repeat the message, or is this what I truly believe? And so I just remember when I came back from that trip, how it had changed my life and the conversations that I would have with friends about it. And even my friends to this day, like they remember that. And that's because Dave, he took the initiative to lead that trip and to courageously take like these young people. And so, I think you were probably like 9 at that time when we did that. So of course he wasn't your father-in-law then, but then you marry into the family, and just to be a part of what that was like to just walk through that with the family and then celebrating his life. I just want to give you an opportunity to share, like, how did you do that? Like, what did you rely on and what did you focus on during that time of grief? Because it's something that we can't avoid. We all are going to be losing people. Maybe some of us have lost people already, and every journey is different. But if you just give us insight to what you've been going through these last few weeks.
Yeah, it's interesting because, like you said, he's been sick for a little bit and stuff, and so it's just been this like processing over the past number of months and just kind of working through it. But I still feel like, even through processing and preparing and all of those things, which I am so thankful for that time. When he did pass, it was still like, wow, there's still a lot of grief here. There's still like such a loss, and it is a little different because we know that his heart was for the Lord. Like God lived in him. He is with his Father in heaven, and so it's the grief that it is just covered in hope and covered in that. So it's definitely like you have a hope in it. If there's, we will see him someday, and we will spend eternity. Our loss is temporary. And that just offers so much hope, I feel like, in the hardship of it, because the loss is real. It's you feel it. It's just, it's something that you have to kind of process through in and of itself. But knowing that there's that hope on the other side, and where we get to go in that. And honestly, it was a great family to marry into. They are just fantastic, and they love Jesus. And so that's just been throughout all of this. Like, that's what has grounded everyone. And that's what it's always come back to. And that's where, my father-in-law, he finished so well because he kept that at the core of him. And, there's so many stories of people who visited him in the final weeks and months, or called him in the final weeks and months. And, most of them will tell you they were nervous to do that because it's hard. It can be awkward. You don't know how it's going to go. Like, you really just don't when somebody's kind of on their deathbed, to call them and be like, how are you? Is that even the question you ask? Like, what does this look like? And, I know he appreciated every single person who checked on him. Like, it made him feel loved. It made him feel appreciated. It made him feel seen. All of those things. But every single one of those first people said they left those conversations, or they left those visits feeling more full, because they could be like, I'm good. Like, this is hard, but I know where I'm going. So I'm good, and we can just have a conversation of life. It doesn't have to be a conversation of death. It doesn't have to be a conversation of despair. And he was really able to just continue to let Christ ground him and anchor him in some of the hardest, weeks and months of going through, because he had to process and grieve that he wouldn't be here for things as well, since he knew. And so just seeing him finish well, seeing him finish strong, I think it was just something that I will not forget, and like, just, I don't know, like, it was just like a wow, like, and he just cared well for those that came across his path just in those last times. And yeah, it was pretty neat to see.
Yeah, I think it's so fitting, the verse from 2 Timothy 4:7 that says, I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. And so it was just an honor to be at his celebration of life and hear the stories, and just the legacy that he was able to pass on to his children and his grandchildren. His time here on earth is done. He's already begun eternity in heaven, but he still has so much here on earth that is going to be lived out through his kids and through his grandkids, that's going to impact so many other people. And so I think that's really incredible. And just as you have been walking through that season, just and alongside of your husband during that time, God opened the door to another opportunity.
Yes.
I don't know.
Things are crazy.
That, you got that phone call that there's a little girl who is in need of an emergency placement and a family to care for her and love for her. And this happened after Dave had passed away, yet before his funeral service. And so emotions are running high. Like, when you're in that process of mourning and grief, like, sometimes, like, there is no normal. And it's like, is it daytime? Is it nighttime? Like, what day of the week is it? And yet here, there's this huge decision that not only impacts you and Brad, but your kids and so many facets. And just how were you guys able to walk through that? Like, what steps did you take to have a sound mind?
Yeah. So we got a call one night that there was just a little girl that was in need of a home. And so I think when that call came in, Brad and I were first like, what? And your first reaction wasn't like, oh yes, come. It was like, I'm sorry, what? Like, oh, we're kind of going through a lot right now. Like, you have these like immediate, like, there's no way, like, we can't handle this. That was our immediate, of just, there's no way we can do this right now. The timing is awful. And there's just grief, and we're processing. And like you said, the memorial service hadn't even happened yet, and we're still going through all of these things. And so that was like our immediate. And then I contacted my mom, and I was like, can you just watch our kids? Because Brad and I just need to go and pray and talk for an hour, And so we just dropped off our kids and just went for a walk and just started praying, because we're like, God, like, we just need you. You know, you're the one that's going to guide. You're the one that's going to lead us. That's what matters. And so we just started praying, and then we just started talking. And as we were praying and talking, it was just like, no, this is good. You know, this is something that it feels like we really can't handle right now. But this is like God literally just dropping someone in our lives, and we can't deny that we see that. And so just kind of
Yeah.
moving
Can
forward
I
with
just
that.
offer can I just a little bit of backstory?
Sure.
Just that you and Brad have experience being foster parents.
Hmm.
And so you have welcomed sets of children into your home that it turned out to be a short-term placement. And so it wasn't like you were going into this blindly. You knew a little bit about the unknowns and the variables. And so it wasn't like, okay, we're up for anything. It's like, well, no, we've had some insight and we know the difficulty. We know the strains. We know the stress. We know the emotional risk that's involved. And now our kids are older. And so walking them through that. And so it's like you have that on one side. And then just big picture of our family. For those of you who don't know, our mom is adopted, and that's a big story in and of itself. But then now she has 9 grandchildren, only 4 of whom are biological, as Abby and I and our brother have just been able to bring other kids into the family and hanging out with us. I don't think you would know that they're adopted or anything. Like, it's just been beautiful how God has just like blended us all together. And so it's like, okay, it's like the weight of like, okay, is this part of like what our family does? But then we have this reality of what we're walking through. And then we have this risk, knowing the hurt and the pain that we've gone through when we haven't been able to adopt and hasn't walked through. So taking a prayer walk, like, yes, like that's awesome. But it wasn't just a prayer walk. Like, there was a lot on the line that you guys were weighing. And so I just wanted to provide that context as you're telling this story.
Yeah. Well, and because we texted you, and I was like,
Yeah.
we're freaked out. Can you and Chris please just pray over us? Because we think we're leaning this way, but we know that this could severely disrupt our family, or this could, like you said, yeah, our eyes were wide open given the circumstances. And we were like, can you just pray over us? And just, yeah, just to help offer any guidance or wisdom and different things, because it is. I mean, honestly, I have like gotten rid of most of my baby things, and like we just were not planning to be in this place, and so it definitely was a bit of a bombshell, a bit of a surprise, kind of all of those things. But ultimately, it was like, yes, like we just see God in this. We just see this is an opportunity for us to be a safe and loving and, caring place. And why or how we just felt like, how could we say no? Like, we can't. And this is an opportunity to say yes, not just like default, I can't say no, so I have to say yes. But it was like, no, this is an opportunity to say yes to something that we really do think God is doing, and that God is placing. And so it was, so we got that call, had some intense prayer. And the next day she was here. And so we're all adjusting and learning and growing. But it's just something where you're like, okay, Lord, like, it's funny every time, like, somebody had mentioned, like, oh, God must know you can handle it. And I think my response was, no, I think he knows I can't handle it, because then I need him, and he knows, like, no, you can't do this. And you're thinking that you're getting along just fine in life, but you need me. And so here's an opportunity for you to need me to do this well. Sure, you could probably handle it and be stressed out and exhausted and all of those things, but you can lean on me a little bit more on this. And, so it was just kind of funny, how that, yeah, came about.
I was reading in the Bible, a verse that popped out that just made me think of you guys is Psalm 27:13-14. It says, I remain confident of this. I will see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. Wait for the Lord. Be strong and take heart and wait for the Lord. And just, I know in those last weeks with Dave's life and just the suffering, and it was just a really hard time. But no one gave up the faith, and no one said that this was some sort of curse, or I mean, just everyone continued to proclaim God's goodness through that situation, and to just wait on Him, for Him to answer prayers and just lead the way. And just as God is so faithful, you're able to see the goodness through the stories of those who were encouraged, and just the stories of celebration of life. And then also, like, now, like, this new life that has joined your family, and watching God work through that is just so encouraging. And it says a lot about your story, Abby. It says a lot about you and Brad's marriage and your family. It says a lot about the families that you've each come from, and just like those stories. And it's like, yeah, like whenever there's this end of life time, we think more about our stories. Like, what will people say about us? What will people get? Like, all these days I have lived, all that I've done or haven't done, or all that I've invested into, or all I've tried to do, like, when it's all said and done, like, what's that takeaway from Angie's life? What's that takeaway from Abby's life? And this is just something that fascinates me. I was at a conference a few years ago, and there was a woman who shared. Her name is Sheila Walsh, and she referred to an article in People magazine. And the author of this article had posed to other very well-known authors, tell a story in 6 words. And it just posed as a challenge. And so these authors, they had some different examples. But at the conference, the speaker was just like, what's your life story in 6 words? And if you think about it, it's essentially the length of an epitaph. Like, what would be on the tombstone? What would you want on the tombstone? Are you going to decide that? Is somebody else going to decide that? But what would those words be? And so I know I'm a little bit of like a word nerd, in the sense of I like word challenges. And actually, when we were on vacation, so, okay, really quick side note. So now there's a group text stream between Abby and I and our sisters-in-law, because we like to play the New York Times word challenges when we have some extra time, and like share our results with each other. And so it's kind of a nice way for us to stay connected and use our minds in healthy ways. It was more fun when we did it around the pool, I think, when we were all together. So now we're like a little bit more spread out, but it's a way for us to still stay connected. But I do love word challenges. And so it causes me to think like, okay, like how can you summarize my life in 6 words? And when I first came back from this conference and I had been thinking about it, I was telling my husband about this. I was like, most days I feel like you could summarize my life by saying she tried and hoped it worked. And my husband is like, that is awful. And I was like, that's how I feel most days. He's like, where's the hope in that? And I was like, I just want people to know I at least tried. Like, that's all I want people to know, is that I tried. And so it can be kind of like morbid to think about these, but really the Bible tells us in Psalm 90, verse 12, teach us to number our days so that we may gain a heart of wisdom. Like, we have to have an eternal perspective. Like, our life here on earth, like, this isn't the end. Like, this is just the warm up. Like, this is the test for what life's going to be like on the other side and in eternity. And so, it's not really morbid at all, but it's like, it's training ground. It's like mental training ground. And it's like a checkpoint. Like, okay, like, I think a lot of us have an idea of what we want our lives to look like, or we want people to say about us, but are we really supporting that? Like, are we doing those things on a daily basis? Are we making those choices that are supporting what we want people to say about us? And so when we think about, okay, like, my life on this earth is limited, it causes us to think differently, which then causes us to act differently. And so, I think it's just a fun exercise. I just want to throw it out there. I don't have like tons of examples. I know one of the messages that I tell my kids all the time, like, if when I'm gone, if they're like, what's something your mom always said to you? I'm sure they're going to have like funny things to say, but I want them to know, like, you are stronger than you think. Like, that's my 6 words. You are stronger than you think. Or even if I like tied into like, what's my spiritual purpose? Like, I go back a lot of times to Colossians 2:2, that I want to be known as someone who encouraged in heart and united in love. And just like some of those things. And so, Abby, I don't know if you have any thoughts, but that's kind of like my 6 words. And as we're talking about Dave and just thinking about life stories and the decisions that we make, that like, impact like the stories that will be told about us one day.
We
Maybe
must
you're
be
not as
sisters.
nerdy as I am when it comes to words.
No, I think about all those little sayings that you say to your kids and stuff. And I was like, oh my goodness, we are definitely sisters, because one of the ones I say to my kids is, you're created to do hard things, which is 6 words. You're created to do hard things. Like, I'm like, oh, that's really funny when you said that, because like they were created, they had a creator who enabled them to do things that are difficult because their creator is going to empower them to do it, and just to encourage them in that. Even like we take walks sometimes, and my youngest, he'll be like, you gotta hold me. I'm like, you have healthy legs. Or, I'm like, God gave you healthy legs to do hard things. Like all of these things. And so but it is good to encourage them. But man, personally, that is, I think I'm not quite as wordy, and quite as eloquent with words. But I would just say, like, I think it's not necessarily on my epitaph, but maybe something that like I just kind of like try to be my personal mantra is like just to remind, like, be generous, pray always, and pursue adventure. I feel like it's just kind of some of the things that like drive like me and our family, and a lot of it just comes back to that. Even like you asked, like, how do we prepare? How do we do? And like just in that pray always, like this year, I just really felt so strongly, like to pray and to fast, not just in like our church does it in the beginning of each year, which is fantastic to pray and fast. But I felt like the Lord was asking me to set up a lifestyle of prayer and fast this year, and to do it continually. And so then when those things do come that surprise you out of the blue, like you are prepared, like you've done groundwork in your life, you've allowed God to move. And so just even that, like just praying always, I think is part of my 6 words, if you will.
I think that's fantastic. I applied this whole 6 words thought at the beginning of the summer. I just wanted to read through the minor prophets of the Bible, which sometimes can be perceived as like not very exciting, the not very exciting books of the Bible. But, we believe that all scripture is God breathed and inspired to teach us, to lead us, to rebuke us, and to change our hearts. And so I was like, okay, God, like I would pray before I read. And I was even reading some books, and I had read some of the books. And I was just like, I don't feel like this is sticking. Like I've read it before, and like there's some certain things that I've underlined, but I was just like, I need something more. And so this whole idea, like with this 6 words, was like, okay, I'm going to go back and I'm going to summarize each of the minor prophets in 6 words. Like, so it became this like fun challenge. And so I went back, and then like as I read books going forward, I was like, okay, this is how I would summarize them. And so I typed them out, and not in like a boastful way or like, look what I did, like I'm going to put it on the fridge now. But just, I hope that it inspires someone to like just think differently about the disciplines. Like, because I feel like we say it, we hear it at different times, like the importance of like reading God's word and being in your Bible. And, it's okay to do some creative things to make it more interesting. Like you don't have to feel guilty, like, oh, like that wasn't interesting, or that didn't stick, or I didn't get anything out of that. Okay, so go back and do it again. Or like, you talk about like we're created to do hard things. We're created in the image of God who created everything. So our source of creativity is limitless. I know I am guilty. Like there's times I've said like, well, I'm not the creative one. I'm not creative. But that's not true, because maybe I don't have an enormous gifting in creativity, but I'm made in the image of God who created everything, and he gives us access to his resources so we can be creative. And so anyway, this was just a creative attempt to go through the minor prophets. And so for Hosea, I wrote, sow the wind, reap the whirlwind. And some of these are ideas from like commentaries that I read alongside, or some are actually scriptures, or just kind of like an overall view. Joel, spirit pours on sons and daughters. Amos, woe to those complacent and secure. That was an eye-opening verse. I was like, okay, noted.
Yeah.
We have been warned.
Whoa.
Obadiah, pride
You
in
might
your
get
heart.
a phone call about a baby coming your way if you are complacent and so just kidding. Just kidding. Sorry. Go ahead. Continue.
Obadiah, pride in your heart is deceiving. Jonah, clinging to worthless idols forfeits grace. So that one had me like thinking quite a bit. Micah, you might be able to guess if you're familiar with that passage, is act justly, love mercy, walk humbly. Nahum, trust him, he cares and restores. I say Habakkuk. Do you say Habakkuk or Habakkuk?
Oh, I say Habakkuk, and I'm pretty sure we're wrong because
I
every
think
time I
we're
say
wrong
it, I
too.
get looks. I always get looks, and I'm like Habakkuk, Habakkuk. There's a couple that I just say weird. I didn't go to Bible school, people. I don't know.
Well, then I go back to the song that we sing, and I'm like, isn't that how you say it in the song?
I, I don't know. So what is it again? It's Habakkuk.
I think it's Habakkuk, but I say
Habakkuk.
Habakkuk, just
Okay, I don't know.
default in my mind.
Yes.
But what I bring away from that comes from chapter 3, verse 16. Write down the revelation and wait. Zephaniah, seek the Lord, righteousness and humility. Haggai, give careful thought, be strong, work. After I read through Haggai, I was like, man, that was a great chapter for graduation. Like, we just graduated a bunch of seniors, and I've been going to a bunch of graduation parties, and I'm like, man, I should have like referenced Haggai a little bit more. Give careful thought, be strong, work. Zechariah, not by me, but through him. And Malachi, distinction between the righteous and the wicked. And so, again, it's not to toot my own horn, but just to give an example of like,
Yeah.
maybe you'll want to do something like this for some other chapters in the Bible, or maybe the Holy Spirit will prompt you with another creative idea. But don't give up when it's hard or boring or quote unquote uninspired. But like press in and continue to pursue the word of the Lord, because we know that, I mean, it's through his word, it's through Jesus that gives us life to sustain us when we're walking through these tough situations, when we have to go through grief and when we get unexpected phone calls that we have to make big decisions. And then even on a daily basis, just, not succumbing to the mundane and the easy, but really being intentional about what we want our story to be after we're gone. What do we want people to remember about us? And to make those daily decisions that support that. So, any other thoughts?
Well, I'm just reminded, you said like sometimes it just feels like I'm not getting anything. And a couple podcasts ago, you had mentioned about the coal bucket. And, the coal bucket had holes in it. And he went down, the boy went down to the river and filled it up. And it was always empty every time he came back. But yet the inside of the bucket got clean. Like he felt like what he was doing wasn't resulting, but it cleaned the inside of the bucket. And I just thought that was such a great example, even in those times. That the word is still cleansing and doing things. But I love just looking at it a different way and trying, to find that to just help you in your studies. I think it's great.
Yeah. Last verse I want to leave us with, and then Abby, if you wouldn't mind praying. But 1 Corinthians 9, 24-25, do you not know that in a race, all the runners run, but only one gets the prize? Run in such a way as to get the prize. Everyone who competes in the games goes into strict training. They do it to get a crown that will not last, but we do it to get a crown that will last forever. And so I think it's just such a beautiful passage, knowing that your father-in-law, he was in fact a track star, a state competitor. And so we got to celebrate many of his milestones, recent Hall of Fame induction into the local school district sports association, but to have his coach there speaking at his service. But it wasn't just, those medals from high school from his performance, but it was his faith that gives him that crown that lasts forever. And so that's what's really important. It's not what we can attain and accomplish here on earth, but what we're doing for the kingdom and just living every day for Jesus. So, and Dave did that well.
Yeah. All right. So we'll pray. So God, I just thank you for the days that you have given us here on this earth, Lord, and help us to see that they are limited and that they are numbered, Lord, and to just be on mission, to know that you have a plan and a purpose and you have a reason, and you have placed people in our lives for them to be seen and for them to be known. And Lord, that you just want us to be your hands and feet and opportunities that you bring our way. So Lord, I ask that you help prepare hearts. Lord, that you just open up your or that as we open up your word, Lord, that we can just hear you speaking and sense your guiding, Lord, in our lives and how you desire us to live our days and to be intentional in it. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Well, thanks, Abby. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in, listening. Be blessed, and we look forward to catching up with you again soon. Take care.
Thanks for walking with us today on Legs and Sense. We hope you feel encouraged, uplifted, and reminded that you're not alone. God is teaching you what's best and leading you in the way you should go, just like He promised in Isaiah 48:17. Until next time, keep walking in faith and growing in grace.